Joining me now is Scott Jennings, CNN political commentator and former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Scott has also advised Senator McConnell. Nice to see you. You know, the debt limit discussion aside, I don't want to talk about the policy of that, but what we have here is a conflict between President Trump and Mitch McConnell. It really has been years in the making at this point. You say they have fundamentally different aims.
Yeah, I mean, McConnell's aims are very simple, and it's to regain control of the Senate and to do whatever he has to do to stifle the Democratic agenda until Republicans are back in the majority. Trump's aims are much different. They're very personal. The aim is to regain control of the White House and to punish his enemies and all the things that are personal to him. And it's just two different reasons for being in politics, right? McConnell's reason for being is to have a Republican Party that can govern, and Trump's reason for being in politics is Trump. And so those two worldviews actually were aligned at one point. You know, when Trump was the president, McConnell was in charge of the Senate. They had aligned aims, but now they're obviously on two different tracks.
Do you think Mitch McConnell will do anything to get in the way of Donald Trump's aspirations?
Well, I don't know what he could do. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the reporting you just aired was pretty accurate, I think, with the number of Republicans who support Donald Trump. In my view, if he wants to be the nominee of the Republican Party, he's going to be the nominee. Also, in my view, Republicans have a really good chance to retake the majority in the Senate in the midterm, and McConnell, I think, would be well positioned to be the leader again. And so I'm not sure Trump can get in the way of McConnell, and I'm not sure McConnell can get in the way of Trump. I think these two guys are both, in many ways, masters of their own domain, Trump being master of the grassroots of the Republican Party and McConnell being master of the Senate Republican Conference.
I want you to listen to the number two in the House, Steve Scalise, dodging, weaving, lying when pressed by Chris Wallace about the 2020 election. Listen.
At the end of the day, are we going to follow what the Constitution says or not? I hope we get back to what the Constitution says, but clearly in a number of states, they didn't follow those legislatively set rules.
So you think the election was stolen?
What I said is there are states that didn't follow their legislatively set rules. That's what the United States Constitution says.
Last time, I promise, do you think the election was stolen or not? I understand you think there were irregularities and things that need to be fixed. Do you think the election was stolen?
Yeah. And it's not just irregular. It's states that did not follow the laws set, which the Constitution says they're supposed to follow.
Wallace spent 2 minutes, I think at least, trying to get Steve Scalise to admit the obvious there, which was no, the election was not stolen, but he wouldn't do it. And instead, you know, he basically was lying there. Scott, that's the leadership of the House. It does seem as if that lie is now a central part of the party for a lot of people.
Well, I think the House Republican leaders don't want to befall the same fate as Mitch McConnell. They don't want to become part of the script at the next Trump rally, right? They don't want to be up there being pilloried. And I do think in the House Republican elections, they do believe that Donald Trump is important, if not central, to their fundraising operations, to their candidate recruitment operations, to keeping you know, them on track to winning the majority. I'm not sure he's quite as central to winning back the Senate majority. Those races have different flavor and different character. But in the House, under the leadership of Kevin McCarthy, they've tied their fortunes to Donald Trump. Steve Scalise was reflecting that, and so I'm not surprised that that's the way he answered that question. In fact, I expect that'll be the way they answer it for the rest of the cycle.
Long term, and I don't know if I'm talking months, years, decades, though, Scott, doesn't the truth matter? Won't the truth ultimately dictate the path of things?
Well, you and I have had this conversation on air before. I actually think these conversations about the 2020 election are less impactful on the upcoming midterm and more impactful on the 2024 presidential cycle. I mean, ultimately, the Republicans are going to have to ask the American people for governing responsibility again, and that means facing up to what happened in the aftermath of the 2020 election and the steps that were taken. And so while I think the Republicans could do well in the short term with this, there will be a longer term reckoning, and that's and that is sort of the danger, I guess, of Donald Trump being the nominee again, is his unwillingness to own up to what happened. Now, that having been said, Joe Biden is having a terrible go of it. His approval ratings are plummeting. And although I used to think this was unthinkable, as we sit here today, I think not only is it highly likely Trump could be the leader of the Republican Party for 24, there's a world in which he beats Joe Biden to return to the White House because of the way things are going in the country. So ultimately, as Republicans, my belief is it doesn't make you a bad Republican just to acknowledge what happened. We lost. Bad things were done. They don't have to be done again. And we can be honest about that and still ask the American people for governing responsibility. That seems to me to be a rational position to have, and I hope more Republicans take it.
Scott Jennings, thanks for being with us this morning.